Good, wonderful, thanks very much. Hello and welcome, and as Darren said, my name's Caroline Healy, and I'm your presenter today, and we're going to be talking on how people's behaviour will impact marketing. We'll just share the slides with you now. We'll go through that, and at the end of the session we'll have some Q&As as well. So any issues, as Darren said, please just pop those into the chat. So as I mentioned, my name's Caroline Healy. I'm a strategist and the leader of We Are Savvy. We are savvy, we are strategists, we are marketers, and we are communicators. We work with small and medium businesses to really help them understand their brand, who they are and how they stand out, and are different from competitors down the road. We use these insights then to really form good strategic marketing plans and approaches so that marketing activities are reaching the right people at the right time with the right message. So thank you from our team today for joining us. I'll really skip this one because Darren, I think, covered the main points. We're hoping to run a poll throughout, so we'll see how that goes. Otherwise, if you can put your chats in the questions in the feed, in the chat. If there's something you want to send private, Marika, my colleague, is monitoring the chat under my name, so you can send it to her specifically. So we'll get into it. What I wanted to start with is sharing with you 5 insights that I believe have been impacting customers over the last 3 or 4 months that I really do think will impact and change marketing over the coming 12 months, and that I believe marketers and business owners should really be aware of. So my first point that I wanted to share with you is around challenge to creativity. 3-4 months ago, businesses were faced with a huge range of challenges: how to get people to buy their products and services, how to interact with customers, how to make sure that they could still have money coming through the door. And businesses have really adapted. Many businesses have adapted really quickly and really creatively, which has been fantastic. They've given new options for customers on how to interact with their business and how to access services and customers. So some businesses have really, adapted well and thought creatively to really change their operations and to engage with customers. So I think that, it's fantastic to see that it's actually been, in some instances, easier for customers, or at least customers have had different options and different choices. We've seen telehealth, 5-star dining experiences at home, contactless, pick up at Dan Murphy's, which is my favourite experience if you haven't had that one yet. But also, a vet clinic who, still see, pets, but having social distancing. Their customers are staying in the car, and their vets are wearing headsets and calling the owners so that they can still adhere to social distancing laws and rules, but still see pets and still engage with their customers, really giving that personal sort of experience. So to combat this challenge has been great creativity, which is really fantastic to have seen. And I think where businesses are looking for solutions, problem solving and seizing opportunities is wonderful. But in that, we haven't seen that before. There's very often you go to a business or you want to interact with somebody and they say, that's not our policy. We're not going to do that. Businesses live by a set of strict rules and guidance. All those rules have been thrown out the window for the last couple of months. So customers have really seen this sort of different choice and different options. And the businesses that have been able to do that really have managed to stay a step ahead of competitors. I think customers are going to want creative solutions and they're going to want more flexibility in how they access products and services down the track. These sorts of creative solutions are the things that actually are helping businesses to stay memorable. Another trend that I've seen is around what I'd call the care factor. People are spending time at home in their local neighbourhoods, caring about making sure that their small businesses, their local cafes, boutiques and so on, are, staying in business. So, it's a wonderful thing. There's been a good shift to buying local, which really helps these small businesses. And of course, we've seen a number of different campaigns that drive that as well. So American Express does a Shop Small campaign. There was the Love of Your Local, which is around supporting local pubs, there. So I think there's been a real drive and a sense of community, which has been nice to see. and certainly supporting people wanting to support businesses who are supporting other people in their community, frontline workers or other small businesses. Another area that I've seen a shift in and been researching about is around a trust shift. So, what is being reported is that there's actually a shift back to traditional media, like the nightly news, and away from social media as a source of news information. And this is really about fake news, and people want to know that the news they're getting is trustworthy. And it's actually the first time we've started to see the social media giants start to combat or start to put measures in place around managing what's called fake news. So YouTube actually pulled video content that links COVID through to 5G, and WhatsApp and Facebook have also put some steps in place to really try and slow that spread of fake news there. So people are wanting trusting, news sources. They're caring about what they're actually listening to and hearing about. This is an Accenture study, piece of research that was done in 2018, and there are plenty of other research pieces out there. Really what this is saying is that over and above price, obviously price and features are always an important determining factor in why people buy products or services, but people also care about being aligned to the company that they're buying from. They want a values alignment. They want to know that they can trust a product or a service or a company. And it is a factor in decision making. And it's particularly important and particularly a decision making factor for our younger generations as well. So I think what you'll see down the track is that those businesses who have really done the right thing and have not taken advantage, looking for a quick buck or a quick win here, they will receive benefits in the long term, and customers will continue to go back to them. My third point today is about craving connection. We always want what we can't have, of course. And I think, isolation has, for some people, been wonderful. Enjoyed just having some time out and some time at home. For other people, there really has been that sense of who am I going to see? When am I going to see people? How do I create that connection going? So it's been an interesting, journey, I think, for many people as we've all had these different experiences. Certainly people are connecting in different ways and new ways, and there's some stats, up there on the screen. Lots of online groups, lots of online opportunities. I think the League dating app is an interesting one. It really shows that, driving for connection. It is hard enough in the real world to go out on a first date, let alone have that first date online on video. But, they've had a 41% increase in video dates. And of that, 30% of those video calls have gone to the maximum time limit. So that for me really does demonstrate that people want to make a connection with other humans and other people as much as they can. Of course, we can't forget there's actually been lots of ways to sort of physically contact people within a social distancing environment. So, for me, I do a morning walk, and I think people are looking up more. People are nodding and saying hello, through that morning walk or at the local cafe. Lots of people, I think, are on first name basis with their delivery man, because we love those little presents that they bring every couple of days. And I think as well, the Friday night drinks that you've seen, over the fence, probably when it was a bit warmer. So neighbours are connecting with each other. I think the Anzac Day service going out to your front driveway, helped demonstrate that connection people wanted to keep with each other. So I think before, people valued online shopping. It was fast and efficient and simple. It was human-free. I think the irony now is that people will want a bit more of an experience and a bit more of a connection. Just simple connections with other people, as we haven't had it for, quite some time now. My fourth point around the things that have been changing in our environment is how we've been consuming content. And we've been consuming content at great rates and great knots. And there's some stats on the slide here for you about those increases. So the first is around a Kantar study showing that, Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, so on, increased by 50%. And that's in countries that have been hardest hit by the virus. Twitter has seen an increase. Hootsuite, which is a social media distribution platform. You know, this is businesses. That's a business platform. Businesses are increasing their use in social media. They're putting more content out there. They're really trying to keep their voice, their message in front of consumers as much as possible. And they've seen an increase in messaging and live chats as well over advertising. So how do I send a message direct to customers through social channels or direct mail, direct email? You know, I think email's gone up by something like 27%. So marketers have sent 27% more emails through COVID than pre-COVID. So I think, you know, there's a lot more content out there. People are consuming a lot more content, but this means that it's great for consumers. We've got choice, information, know what's going on. Fantastic. From a business perspective, it's really hard to stay out there in front. It's hard to stay at the top of somebody's feed or even in, you know, someone's inbox as we, you know, get more and more communications and there's more and more content out there. So the last point that I wanted to make around insights and things that have been changing is moving from what has been a fairly carefree society in Australia to a much more cautious society. So the last 4 or 5 years has been, you know, pretty good for most Australian households. People have been working, you know, income's been good, there's been some disposable income. Of course, yes, we've had challenges in Australia like keeping a Prime Minister. Some sectors have really suffered, such as physical retail, haven't really been able to compete well with online retail, but generally it's been a good place to be. This, of course, is rapidly changing for a large number of Australians, and money is going to be an issue. So where we've had low interest rates and low unemployment, low interest rates will stay, but of course unemployment is increased significantly in a short period of time. People are also underemployed, you know, so less disposable income. People have less money to spend. So there's 6 million Australians who are currently receiving the stimulus package through 850,000 businesses. So that's a lot of businesses who are asking for support and asking for help from the government. And there's another 1.6 million people on job seeker and youth allowance. And the Commonwealth Bank have reported already a 20% contraction in household spending versus the same time last year. So we've had a lot of change, and of course people will become more cautious about their spending over the coming 12 months. Businesses also will be cautious about their spending. So whether you're a B2C or a B2B business, you need to think about both of those things and how businesses and people will be really cautious about their spending. So I think what you'll see is a drive in areas where it's commoditised goods, you know, food and basic clothing, people will be looking for price. I think from a services perspective, if you deliver a service, then people are going to look for value. They want more value than what they've previously had. So I'm hoping that the poll function might work. We'll have a look. And I'm just going to launch a little poll, allow myself to have a little sip of water. I'd be really keen just to hear from you around, you know, of the 5 things that I've spoken about this morning. So, you know, do you need to stay creative to be relevant? Do you need to consider care and trust? Do you need to consider how you're going to create a connection? Do you need to consider content? Or number 5, do you need to be more worried about cautious customers? Which one of these 5 things do you think will impact your business the most over the coming 12 months? So I'll give you a minute just to fill out that poll and I'll take a sip of water. Oh, neck and neck so far. What are we neck and neck with, Marika?
Being creative to be relevant is inching ahead.
Yep.
Followed closely by creating connections and cautious customers.
So far we're being creative to be relevant, creating connections and cautious customers seem to be the top 3 responses. So are you able to share that? Does it come up?
Everyone's nearly finished.
Great. Fantastic. So thank you for that.
Okay. Being creative to be relevant.
So
29%.
29% of you believe that being creative to be relevant and remain relevant is going to be the biggest challenge for you in the next 12 months. So hopefully the next couple of next 15 minutes or so, I can give you some ideas and thoughts about how you might think about that. But you know, it's great, and all of those things I believe will play out in many businesses in some way, shape, or form. Okay. So we've had those insights. What does this mean for your marketing? And I suppose this is what many of you are really interested in. Of course, I'm a big believer in strategic brand and marketing, so I'm going to talk a lot about strategy, but also provide you with some practical points around marketing execution and activity. So the first point I wanted to talk to you about under strategy is around, sorry, you just go to the next slide, that's all right, is about knowing what products or services your customers want. So a scattergun approach to marketing will not work. It never works, and it certainly won't work in the coming 12 months. You need to get focused and really be strategic. So think about your products and services and your different customer segments. This is really important information to plan your marketing and ensure that your marketing is targeted and really attracting the right clients or customers to you. Now, earlier I said this creativity piece, customers have a different set of choices. So my advice to businesses is don't rush back to changing everything back to as you had it pre-COVID. Think about, do your customers want physical services? Do they want to be able to come into a physical store, into a meeting, into an office? Do they want to be able to see you? Do they need that to interact with your product or your service? Or is there still online opportunities? And have a look at what is that right mix for your business in terms of a cost-effective delivery and also your customers. So really, don't just jump back into the way it was. I think some customers are going to really want to keep that online choice and that interaction there. Other people will really want to come back into a physical environment. So, obviously ask your customers, ask them, what have they been enjoying? What haven't they been enjoying? What would they like? What would they like to see and experience, from you and your business? So reevaluate your products and services and how you deliver them. And then map out what are your customer segments. So which customers want to purchase and interact with you in what way? And think about that and build that into your marketing. I think it sounds complicated, but there actually are some simple ways to segment your marketing and your marketing messages really to reach the different customers. So at the moment, I'm working with a company on a digital marketing campaign that we're going live with next week. We have two audiences. We have young people and their parents that we need to attract, and we have a very limited budget for what we're trying to do. So what we're doing is we're using the same idea, we're using the same tagline, we're using the same creative, the same look and feel, so we're gaining all of those efficiencies, but we're really tailoring the messaging for the different audiences. So we're creating a set of ads for young people and a set of ads for parents, all with the same look and feel, but different messages, and we're placing those in different media. So for young people, we're using Instagram and TikTok, and for parents, we're using news, display ads, and so on. So it's a fairly simple way to actually target different customer segments with an overall sort of organisational message. So there is a little bit of additional work there, but it's not creating two separate campaigns or two separate pieces of marketing activity there. So think about your products and services and think about which customer segments will buy them and build that into your marketing approach and your marketing plan. My second piece of advice goes back to this care factor and the positioning. So in marketing, we call this your brand positioning, which is really what helps articulate who you are as a business, what you stand for, what makes you different from competitors, what are your values. So if people are buying products and services and wanting to interact with businesses based on values, as well as price and service features, then you need to think about your positioning. Think about what you want people to think about your business. What perceptions do you want them to have of you? I really do believe that businesses who have a perception of doing the right thing during the good times and the bad times, who are building trust, will gain loyalty over the long term. Those businesses who are perceived as, wanting a quick buck and a quick win will not. And I know people at the moment will be saying, I don't have time for positioning, because it is a long-term game, absolutely. But what I'd say to you is, do you want a one-night stand or do you want a relationship? So think about how you want a relationship with your customers. For service businesses particularly, return customers are gold. You want to keep the same set of customers coming through that door. It is much more cost effective for you to operate and service the same set of clients and customers than having a whole new set of customers come in. Churn and burn customers who are only after price will end up costing your business more in the long run. So even if you don't spend much time on this positioning because you think it's not immediate, think about, relook at your positioning, and ensure that your positioning is reflected in your business practices, in your marketing, in your customer experience. So for example, through this COVID experience, I had a client who, unfortunately we had to stop a piece of work halfway through. Now, I don't think this would be uncommon for many of you on the call. So instead of sort of just, throwing that piece of work in the bin, I gave it to the customer and said, here's the work. Obviously, we're not going to finish it because we can't spend any more money, and that's okay. But here's what I would do. Here's 3 or 4 recommendations for you to use this work without, having our involvement. So you as a business can use the work and gain the benefit. So why did I do that? Because it was the right thing to do. It's the way that I want to do business. I want to create relationships. And so just in, handing that work over, hopefully that customer, when they can come back to me and we'll work together at another point down the track. The third area of marketing is around getting personal. So obviously this relates to people craving connection and how to create connection. Aussies are getting restless. You can see everyone's, breaking social distancing laws and, wanting to get out there and start connecting with people and seeing other people. So think about how you humanize your business and create this connection and get personal. I think marketing, we tend to really strive for perfection. And I would suggest a great way to get personal is to look for authenticity. So worry less about being perfect and look more around how are you authentic to who you are as a business. Think about how your customer experience as well as your marketing can create these personal connections with customers. Because of course, yourself, you hate it when you go and deal with a business and you're a number, you're on a list. No one wants to feel like that. So I think thinking about, go to the next slide, that's all right. My notes got left behind. So here's some just ways around thinking about how you can get personal in your marketing and your communications or your customer experiences. Tagging customers on your social media if they've been into, your workplace or so on. I've just seen the guys here at Studio Nada Wanting taking photos as I'm doing the filming. Now I'm sure as we leave, they'll be asking if they can post that up onto their social media account and tagging. And of course, that's great. It's a good connection to have. Make sure your communications are personalised. Use people's names. Gone are the days of blanks and sirs and madams. If you don't have a good customer database, spend some time making sure you've got people's details correctly. Try and swap the email for the phone every now and then. Of course, it can take some extra time, but it is important to have a conversation. You'll actually get richer information from a customer through having a conversation on the phone as well. There's a couple of others there, obviously around checking your language, not being too formal, really having language that will allow you to connect to your customer. For a small business like myself, where, I don't have hundreds of customers, but, a really good core set of customers, it is about celebrating life too. A message when they've had a good win, or a message of congratulations if it's, or a happy birthday, any of those sorts of things. I do think that when the time is right, I would actually encourage businesses to hold events. Now, I'm actually not a big advocate for events normally, But I think in terms of connecting with people and becoming more personal, I think events will become popular at the right time. Now, when that is going to be, I'm not quite sure. It might not be for another 6 months. It might even not be till early next year. Have a think about customer created content. Ask your customers. Can they create content for you? Can you join with them to create content? So, if it's a selfie of the customer using your product or interacting with your service, if it's doing a joint blog, writing something together, or some sort of client competition. So think about how you can actually get customers to create content for you. Obviously, people love seeing themselves or knowing that, they've participated in something. So that's a great way to really create the connection and get personal. The last point here is about getting personal and creating connections is about relationships, and it's two-way. So think about how to empower your team to be themselves and create a connection with customers as well. Obviously, the joy of Zoom has actually been that I think people have let their guard down a little bit. So, we've seen the kids and the dogs and the noises and, no makeup and, everyone just looking a little bit more relaxed and a little bit authentic to who they are. Of course, I had to dress up today, but, generally, people are showing who they really are, which is wonderful. And I think encouraging your teams to do that so customers feel comfortable with your team. So the next point is around getting creative. So how do you stand out? How do you stand out to remain relevant? How do you stand out in content? When there's just so much content churning through people's emails, social medias and so on, it really is hard to have creative content and stand out. Also though, customers expect to be informed now. I expect to be kept in touch with, on top of what's going on with my different, all the different businesses that I interact with. So I expect to be informed, but also my email and my social feed churns. So it's really hard to stand out, and it's really easy to say get creative, but how do we do that? So think about an idea. And it doesn't have to be a big idea. It can be a small idea, but something that can just help tie your content together and that you can use on a consistent basis. That's what's really important here, is you take an idea and you stick to it and you use it consistently over the long term so that it is associated with your business. So some thoughts here around ideas to help you stand out, creative activity, so action-oriented type activity. So if you think about TikTok, perfect, although probably many of you are not on TikTok or have customers that are on TikTok, and I'm not either, but, TikTok is a great action-oriented platform. It's about creating a dance or a song or something. Taglines have been used for years and years, and, it was a really great way to align a tagline positioning you want with your business. Such as, American Express, don't leave home without it. That was actually developed in 1975, and it's, still going on decades later. Characters might be something like the Energizer Bunny. That's another fairly well-known character across, across big-scale advertising, but yours might be just something small, that works for your audience and works within your area. I actually love language as an idea, as a creative idea, way to stand out, and it's around a play on language. So how do you use language in a really smart and clever way? So, for things like Tabasco hot sauce, they've got campaigns and it all talks about explode your senses and I was born hot. Obviously Tabasco sauce is a hot sauce, and so they're just using that play on words and that language there to stand out. And there's other ideas up there for you. Just remember with content, you do want it to be relevant, you want it to be authentic and concise as well. I have a client, and Brendan in my team has been working with her. She's a bookkeeper, and she will describe herself as a numbers nerd. So, what we've done and what Brendan's doing in helping her with her content and her content development is really bringing out that numbers nerd persona and character within the writing that we're developing. So it's really authentic and true, but it also allows us, because we're talking about financial content, which is a little dry for some people, it allows us to be a little bit more relaxed in that environment. So that little numbers nerd persona coming out is our way to really get that content to stand out from other, bookkeeping type content. So my last point for you on, what you should think about from a marketing perspective and what you might need to look at doing is around being integrated. So your online and offline marketing efforts need to be connected and integrated. And I know that probably sounds obvious for some, but often we just don't do that. We look at one thing at a time and we don't think about how they should be coming together. So think about what are the couple of things that you want to do, one or two things. This is not about doing everything and being on every channel. Be really select about the type of marketing you want to do. Is it referral marketing? Is it networking? Is it digital marketing? All of that. Work out what are your goals and think about how those things come together. So, relationship marketing, a lot of services businesses that I talk to say, I don't need to do marketing. It's all about referrals and all about networks. Well, actually, to get referrals and networks, you do need marketing, whether it be going to networking events, participating in group conversations or forums, or actually then using digital media to expand your reach. So I use LinkedIn to really expand my reach so that, I've got, 800 followers or something on LinkedIn. It's not a huge number. It's not a low number. It's probably pretty average for many people. But that helps me get my messages out there to a broader number of people. But then my face-to-face or my online networking activities allow me to build stronger relationships with a smaller group of people as well. So it's really working out how to complement my networking and referral marketing activities as well as my digital marketing activities. The thing I'd say about digital marketing is, look, it does help you connect with the broader broader communities, and it helps to keep you top of mind. I can't keep in touch with 800 people. That's just not possible. So it does help when I'm posting regularly, sharing my content, sharing information, help me keep top of mind when businesses might be thinking about whether they need a brand or marketing support and brand or marketing agency. But you don't have to be on everything. Don't go and sign up to every channel. Think about what channel is appropriate for the customers that you're trying to attract. A couple of tips just to end off here on that point. Certainly easy ways to make sure that your marketing is aligned is really looking at your content and making sure that your messages are the same across all different platforms, whether they, as I say, you're having the same conversation face-to-face as you are if it's online there. Just mentioned about being wise with social. So don't be on every channel. Think about where your customers are and if they're open to hearing from you on that platform. For me, Facebook is a no-no for my business because people aren't interested in the sort of work that I deliver in Facebook. So my clients, they're on Facebook to have fun and to do other things. They're not on there to look for a marketing business. Whereas on LinkedIn, that's, people would look there and they'd look for the credibility around a marketing and brand business on LinkedIn. Obviously, don't forget networking in this time. I think that's really important, and it's really hard to network, but keep networking front of mind. And that will be different for different businesses, but it might be networking for customers, or it might be networking that you need to attract more staff down the track to get the right people there. So just a couple of tips to consider around integration at the end there. So that brings me to just a little wrap up, and then we'll just do a poll, and hopefully there's some questions in the Q&A coming through. So please pop some questions in the Q&A. Otherwise I'll just make you all stand here for 20 minutes before we log off. So pop some questions in, that'd be great. So I think really following the last, 3-4 months of all this rapid change, I think your marketing needs to be focused. Needs to be really focused. Think about your products and services and matching those to your customer segments and making sure that you're building that into your marketing plan. Have a plan. think about your brand positioning. What do you want people to think about your business? And make sure that is built into your customer experience and your marketing. Get personal. Find ways in that marketing plan, in those marketing activities, to create connections with customers. Be creative. Think about that idea that can help you stand out, and own an idea and claim that and differentiate yourself from someone else down the road. And ensure that whatever you do is integrated so that your online persona, marketing messages, customer experience is replicated in your face-to-face, physical, offline marketing and customer experience. So they're the 5 points that I suggest that businesses and marketing people focus on over the next 12 months to really get the best value out of their marketing investment. I'm going to flick to the poll now. And I suppose just interested to hear from you on what's of those 5 things. Sorry, can you just pop the next slide up? That's all right. Well, lovely. And we'll open up this poll as well. If we can open up the poll and you can have a minute or so, it'd be great for you to think about and share with us, you know, which one of these things do you think you'll need to focus on in the next 12 months?
People think they need to be focused, that's coming through, and creative.
Yeah. I think, yeah, focused and creative are probably 2 of the harder ones, but don't let that dissuade you. So definitely, you know, I think being focused, even, you know, being focused might mean you end up doing less, and that's not a bad thing. Because if you're doing less, but you're, you know, targeting the right people in the right environment, you should get better results. So being focused, while it can take some more effort up front, does deliver and will deliver better results in the long term.
Okay, now,
Great.
So yeah, focused. Half of people thought focused, and then followed by creative and positioned.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I'm glad to see positioning got up there and be positioned, because again, that is a long-term piece for businesses, but I do believe that it is really important for that longer-term success and really gaining loyalty with your customer base. So thank you all very much. So that's really all I had to share with you today, and I really wanted to open it up to questions. So please pop some questions in the chat. I'm going to ask Marika to read out some questions for us.
Sure. So first from Brendan, we've seen that the fastest way to humanise your brand and build connection and trust is by producing authentic content. Is this the same for personal brands, e.g. solopreneurs or thought leaders, as well as business brands?
Oh, wow, fantastic question. So if you couldn't hear Marika, the question really is about, is authenticity as relevant for businesses as it is individuals and solopreneurs? And absolutely. I think for any of us, we have to be authentic to who we are. And that, you know, we bring that to work, and whether you bring that to work in a team, in a large environment, when it's a team, it is important to bring people together and make sure there's aligned values, and people will live to the customer experience that you want them to. And it is really important for solopreneurs, because your business brand and your personal brand is one in the same thing. So being authentic, you know, is really key. And certainly that's why, you know, if you do work with a marketing agency to get some support, it's important that you spend time with them to let them get to know you, to bring that authenticity out, and making sure that, you know, it does represent who you are as an individual. Thanks.
We have a question from Ashley. He's interested to know what you think is the one single biggest challenge facing small businesses when things come back.
Thanks, Ash. I think the biggest challenge facing small businesses when it comes back, when, you know, as things start to wind up, I think, you know, getting out there first. So I think everyone will be trying to rebuild businesses and get back in front. So I think my piece of advice would be get out first, get organised, get planned, get focused now, so that you're out and you're doing your marketing and you're top of mind before your competitors are. So I think that is really important. I think for small businesses, then the biggest challenge is just the world is changing so often and so quickly that you don't necessarily have the resources to adapt and do everything that needs to be done. So I think, yeah, the challenge is probably a resourcing and time challenge to make sure that you're out in front of competitors.
And Brendan wants to know, he wants lots of customer relationships rather than one-night stands. Does that make him a polygam marketer?
I think a polygam marketer would be a good thing. Absolutely, we should be having lots of relationships. Is always a good thing. Keep customers coming back. You'll all know that it is more cost effective to retain business and keep working with the same customers than trying to attract new customers. So it is more cost effective for your business, to do that and build relationships over the long term. Yeah.
That's all for now.
Any other questions out there? Surely there's got to be. I can see. It's not like some of the people on the screen are quiet little ones that I can see. Any other questions, tips, comments, thoughts?
Here we go.
See something popping up?
Yeah, one more. How do you choose the one best social platform for you?
So the question is, how do you choose the one best social platform that is right for you? Set a goal first. So I think, it goes back to, what are you trying to sell? Who is your customer? Where are those customers? So what platforms are they on? Are they open to receiving your information and your content in that environment? And choosing that. I don't believe that you should have every social platform under the sun. I think choose one or two and do them well. Put content up there regularly. So if you're going to choose a social platform, you need to put content up there regularly. So choose one or two platforms where your customers are, where they're open to hearing your messages. That's the other thing. They need to be open to what you have to say, and then making sure that you can commit whatever time to make sure there's regular content on you. So for myself, as a marketing service, it is LinkedIn because it is the professional network. People on that network are looking for marketing services or marketing content or marketing information. They're open to hearing my messages within that platform. They wouldn't be open to hearing my messages, when they're scrolling through Instagram on a Saturday afternoon. That would just annoy them. So, yeah.
I've got 3 more questions.
Great.
From Michelle, you mentioned positioning. What are the key factors to consider when crafting your positioning?
Sure. Yeah. So the key things around positioning and how to craft positioning. I mean, I could do a whole nother webinar on that, but, have a think about, gather some information first. So gather information around who your customers are, what they value and what they want. Think about competitors in the market that you play in. What do they offer? How are you different? So you want to look for positioning that helps to differentiate you. What stands out about your business that the mortgage broker down the road doesn't do, or the hair salon, or whatever it might be. So think about getting some information about how your business is performing, the products, the services, the types of customers, the types of competitors, and then think about what it is that's different. What are the needs of the different groups as well? So what are the needs of the customers? How what you provide is different from others, and you try and create a positioning from that and an idea from that. So probably a very succinct, well, not so succinct, but a very brief glimpse at positioning there. But there are some formulas to follow: research, brainstorming, get teams together, get people involved in your organisation, and narrow in on a key idea that is good for you and your business. Yeah.
next question. I'm hearing so many new buzzwords, e.g. in these unprecedented times,
Yeah.
now more than ever, keeping you safe and contactless, etc. What's your suggestion for meaningful words to get across our genuine intent instead of these new buzz phrases?
Definitely. So the question there is about buzz phrases, unprecedented. There's been lots of different buzz phrases that have come over the last 3 months. And I certainly was working with a client and we were using some of those. And after about 2 or 3 weeks, I was like, we need to change our language because it's not helpful, to reiterate things like unprecedented and crisis and so on. I don't think is actually helpful from a customer perspective. So I think just, it's not about finding new buzzwords, but just when you're writing content, if you're writing communications, keeping it simple. Think about how if you were talking to your mum or if you were talking to, your teenager or whatever that might be, how would you talk to them? What sort of friendly, simple language would you use? So it might be just around reframing sentences and changing the style of language that you use. And just, I always write a piece of content once, then, perhaps review it, come back a day later and review it. And you can then, take out all the jargon and all the BS that you've put in there sort of once you've stepped away from that. So view the content when you're reviewing content with that sort of lens. Yeah.
Great. From Carol, you said you're not a big fan of events. Can you explain why and what you would see as the exceptions, i.e. when would you recommend an event?
Sure. So the question there is about events and when are events useful. Look, I'm generally not a massive fan of events because they're very costly to run. They're resource intense to run and put on an event, and they can be very costly. And so you might not get a good return on your investment there. I think events have their place, and I think events will have their place in the coming 12 months once things open up, because I think people will want connection. So I think that investment will be worth it because you'll be able to create a memorable experience. You'll be able to create a physical interaction that I think customers are going to want. So I think, look, events are great to mark milestones, big changes. I think they're good for education as well, so conferences and those types of things. It's just making sure that you're getting the right people, I suppose, you want at the event. Sometimes, a small boutique event is probably better than a big scale piece there. But yeah, the downside of events is they take a lot of time and they take a lot of resources to do it well. Because you've got to think about when you run an event, you want it to, present your whole experience, present your positioning, present your business. So, you need to make sure your details are all lined up so that you really give people an experience to talk about and to take away with them.
Right, next question is around content from Michelle again. In considering content, what percentage should be value add and what percentage a call to action?
Oh, so the question there is about content and what percentage of content should be about value add and what should be about call to action. Again, I think it probably depends on different businesses. I'm a believer of probably value add, 60-70% and call to action, 30%. I think call to action is important. Sometimes in services businesses, we find it really hard to create the right call to action or to make that call to action feel authentic. And a lot of small business owners don't really feel comfortable with the hard sell. So I think it's about understanding how a call to action feels right for you and how you deliver that message that feels authentic sort of there. But I think, as we saw, and I didn't have LinkedIn statistics around content, but people are looking for content at the moment, spending more time at home, online, websites the first point of call, people are trolling through social. So it's a great time, while it's busy and hard to stand out, it's a great time to be putting content out there, with that value add, with that education. It's building credibility is so important for all businesses. So the value add helps you build your credibility, which is key.
Fantastic. So this is from from Hannah. Do you have any advice for individuals who are looking to market a service as opposed to a tangible product, such as consulting and business services? Any recommendations for building networks and demonstrating authenticity?
Yeah. So I think, Hannah, great question around services marketing and the difference. Services marketing I've always done, I would say it's harder than product marketing because you're trying to create those tangible things that people can feel and experience. So really going back to sort of what I talked about in the presentation today, know what your positioning is. How are you different from others in your area, in your industry? Think about that positioning and then how to bring it to life. I think for services businesses, consulting-based businesses, you do need to do a mixture of relationship marketing, so building relationships, networking, referrals, building up those face-to-face or virtually. We're on Fresh Online. Join those virtual networking groups. Once they become physical networking groups, you have to sort of get out there and beat the pavement somewhat in relationship and drive relationships, and really complement that with digital marketing. So complement that with blogs and other content on the website, on social channels, webinars, videos, whatever that might be. But complement relationship marketing with digital marketing, so that you've got that sort of breadth and that reach there.
Fantastic. And from Brendan, any tips for businesses or personal brands to get started creating content?
I think to get started to creating content, now there is, and I've forgotten what it is, but if you actually can Google, there's a website that you can go to that allows you to search what other people are searching for, and it gives you a wheel of question and answers. I'll post the link on my LinkedIn later today because I can't actually remember the website. Ask the Audience. Thank you. Cameraman Tim over the back there. So the website's called Ask the Audience, and if you go to Ask the Audience and say, what are people asking about brand, or what are people asking about marketing, it will give you a whole lot of questions that people are searching for. So that's a great way to start thinking about content. Another great way to start thinking about content is just ask your customers. Ask them as they come in, or sit down and think about what questions have your customers been asking you over the past 3 or 4 months. What's the question you get every day or every week? And just start jotting those down, and they'll start to give you lots of great creative ideas and content ideas. So wonderful. I think that's about time. So thank you. We had a slow start to questions, but it was fantastic. I'm really glad that you fed through more questions, so I appreciate that. I hope you found today really interesting and enjoyable. My details are not on the screen. We've just lost that. But most of you have either I know or you found me on LinkedIn. I'll put a little synopsis up on there. Please reach out if you've got questions around brand or marketing activities or elements. Really happy to help you in any way that we possibly can. So, Darren, did you want to wrap up and say anything? No? All good. So thank you.